When a humble woman walks into a luxury car dealership, she's dismissed, judged by her plain clothes and quiet demeanor. Humiliated and heartbroken, she walks out without a word. But the next day, the arrogant salesmen learn a lesson they'll never forget when a black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulls up, and out steps the billionaire husband they mocked her behind. The sun had barely reached its peak when Emily stepped off the city bus, her handbag clutched tightly in her hand. Dressed in a plain cream blouse and modest skirt, she walked with steady determination toward the grand dealership at the end of the street. The glass showroom sparkled, displaying cars worth more than most houses. She paused briefly at the entrance, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. Finally, Emily approached the nearest desk. "Excuse me," she said gently, "could someone show me the Rolls-Royce section?" The younger salesman looked her up and down, his smile condescending. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "those vehicles are reserved for serious clients. Maybe you should look at our used section. If that's more within your range." Other customers looked over. One woman chuckled. Emily's cheeks turned red. She lowered her eyes, trying to maintain her dignity. "I'm serious," she said quietly. The salesman's face hardened. "Ma'am, we don't entertain jokes here. If you're not buying, please don't waste our time." His voice echoed across the floor. Emily didn't argue. She just nodded, turned, and walked out. Her shoes echoed against the tiles. She didn't cry until she was around the corner, where no one could see her. She pulled out her phone and typed a message. "Don't go to the hotel yet. I need you." Seconds later, her phone rang. She answered. "What happened?" asked a deep voice her husband, Lucas Blackwood. "Nothing I can't handle," she replied, but Lucas could hear the crack in her voice. "I'm coming back tonight." That night, in their penthouse apartment, Emily sat by the window with tea in her hand. Lucas stood behind her, his hands resting on her shoulders. "They'll regret this," he whispered. Emily didn't respond. She only stared into the night, her reflection clear in the glass. The next day would change everything. The next morning, the city stirred to life with its usual rhythm. But in the penthouse suite atop Blackwood Tower, silence reigned. Lucas buttoned his crisp white shirt, while Emily sat on the edge of the bed, watching him quietly. "You don't have to," she said softly. Lucas met her eyes through the mirror. "Yes, I do." In the underground garage, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom shimmered beneath the fluorescent lights. The engine roared to life, low and commanding. The driver opened the rear door for Lucas and Emily. He stepped aside with reverence. As the car pulled out, its polished chrome reflected the morning sun like a blade. Back at the dealership, the same salesmen chatted at the front desk, sipping coffee and scrolling through their phones. "Can't believe that lady yesterday," one of them snorted. "Thought she could afford a Rolls in that outfit." The other laughed. "Hope she found the bus station." Suddenly, the sunlight dimmed outside. Heads turned. The black Rolls-Royce glided to a stop in front of the glass doors. Its elegance was undeniable. The engine quieted like a beast satisfied. Everyone in the showroom paused. One whispered, "Who is that?" The chauffeur moved quickly, opening the door. First came the woman from yesterday, Emily, but this time, her presence held quiet grace. Then, out stepped Lucas Blackwood, impeccably dressed, towering, commanding. The room went still. One of the salesmen dropped his coffee cup. Lucas walked in without a word. His eyes scanned the room, landing on the salesman from yesterday. "This is the place?" he asked Emily. She nodded. Lucas stepped forward. "I want to see your best Rolls-Royce model. And I want him," he pointed directly, "to serve us." The salesman stammered. "Sir, I apologize. I didn't know." Lucas cut him off. "You judged my wife by her clothes, not her worth, and for that, your apology means nothing." He turned to Emily. "Darling, take your time." Emily smiled slightly as she walked past them, head high, graceful. The room watched in silence. Emily walked slowly through the rows of luxury vehicles. The staff scrambled into professional posture. Phones were put down. Whispers stopped. One senior manager appeared from his office, already sensing something big was unfolding. The silence was tense. Every move Emily made felt heavier now. The young salesman approached again, face flushed. "Ma'am, I truly didn't mean to offend you yesterday," he mumbled. Emily looked at him calmly. "You didn't offend me. You embarrassed yourself." She walked on, letting the words hang. The general manager, a polished man in his 50s, appeared. "Mr. Blackwood," he greeted, clearly trying to take back control. "We had no idea this happened. Please allow us to fix it." Lucas raised a brow. "Fix it? Can you undo humiliation?" The manager hesitated. "No, sir, but I'll personally ensure you and your wife receive our best." Emily stopped in front of a sleek Rolls-Royce Ghost with a deep obsidian black finish. The car sparkled under the showroom lights. "This one," she said. Lucas nodded. The general manager called over a senior consultant immediately, who bowed slightly before guiding Emily through the spec's completely different tone from the day before. While paperwork was being prepared, one of the junior staff Googled Lucas Blackwood. The results sent a ripple of gasps across the floor. Founder of a multi-billion-dollar tech firm, real estate mogul, listed in Forbes. The salesman who insulted Emily turned pale. Emily signed the paperwork, still calm and quiet. No gloating, no smugness. Lucas simply stood beside her, like a shadow of power. The senior staff shook their hands with practiced respect. "It will be delivered to your residence by evening," the manager confirmed. Lucas nodded, but said nothing more. As the couple walked back to their car, everyone watched. Emily paused at the door. She turned slightly. "You never know who you're speaking to. That's why kindness should never depend on appearances." Then she stepped inside, and the Rolls-Royce glided away, leaving silence and shame in its wake. As the doors shut behind the departing phantom, the dealership buzzed again, only this time with whispers, not laughter. One of the junior staff had taken a discreet photo of Lucas and Emily. The moment he recognized their identities. "You guys," he whispered, "they're literally billionaires." Within minutes, the photo was shared across private group chats. By noon, the image was trending. Captioned, "Salesman insults woman in dealership." Next day, "Billionaire husband arrives in Rolls-Royce." Thousands of comments flooded in. Some condemned the salesman. Others praised Emily's grace. Hashtags like #NeverJudge and #Queen Emily began to spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, back at the penthouse, Emily sat on the balcony with a book in her hand. She had no idea that her story was already being told on every platform. Lucas approached with his phone, a small smirk on his lips. "You've gone viral," he said, handing it over. Emily raised a brow. "What did they say?" He chuckled. "They love you." The dealership, now under scrutiny, released a formal apology. It read, "We sincerely regret the experience faced by Mrs. Blackwood. Discrimination has no place in our brand. Disciplinary actions have." YouTubers, TikTokers, and news channels picked up the story. Some reenacted the scene. Others praised Emily as the embodiment of quiet strength. One influential blogger said, "She didn't need to scream. She just let the truth speak." The dealership offered to host an exclusive gala to honor Emily and Lucas, hoping to repair their image. A personal invitation arrived in an ornate envelope. Emily opened it, read silently, then placed it aside. "Tell them no," she said. "We're not part of their show." The next morning, Emily stepped out with Lucas, hand in hand, into a world that now saw her differently. Not just as a billionaire's wife, but as a woman who reminded everyone of something they'd forgotten. Respect is not reserved for the rich. It's the right of every human being. Back at the dealership, the once confident young salesman now stood in the manager's office. His hands were clenched, his eyes downcast. "You've brought shame to this entire branch," the manager snapped. "We don't just lose a customer, we lose trust. And that costs everything." With a heavy sigh, the salesman handed over his name badge and walked out silently, like Emily had. Later that day, the general manager gathered the entire staff in the showroom. "What happened this week should never happen again," he said firmly. "From this moment on, we treat every person who walks through those doors with respect. No exceptions." Heads nodded. Some eyes lowered, guilt and humility settling in. That evening, Emily sent a short email to the dealership, not to gloat, not to scold. It read, "We hope this serves as a reminder to always choose kindness. You never know someone's story. Warmly, Emily Blackwood." The message was printed out and pinned on the staff notice board. It stayed there for weeks. Days later, an elderly man in simple clothes walked into the same dealership. The staff greeted him politely, offered water, and showed him around without judgment. He smiled, surprised. "You've all changed," he said. "Something happened here, didn't it?" The salesman nodded. "Someone reminded us who we're supposed to be." Behind the scenes, Lucas made one more move. He quietly bought shares in the dealership's parent company. Not for revenge, but for change. He appointed new customer care leadership and introduced anonymous review systems. Respect must be rooted in the culture, not just the moment, he said. Weeks passed. One afternoon, Emily received a handwritten letter in the mail. It was from a young girl who saw her story online. "Thank you," the girl wrote. "I dress plainly too. I've always felt invisible. But your story made me feel powerful." Emily wiped a tear and placed the letter in her drawer of keepsakes. One Sunday, Lucas and Emily passed by the dealership on their way to brunch. They didn't stop. Just a glance, a quiet smile between them. It was no longer about revenge or recognition. It was about a world ever so slightly changed, because one woman didn't let disrespect silence her dignity. A well-known lifestyle magazine reached out weeks later. They wanted to feature Emily in an article titled "The Woman Who Redefined Power." At first she declined, but after some thought, she agreed only if the focus was not on wealth, but on the principle. "I didn't do anything special," she told the journalist. "I just didn't let their smallness shrink me." The journalist arrived at the Blackwood residence. She expected extravagance. Instead, she found warmth. Emily served tea, wore simple pearl earrings, and talked not about brands or revenge, but about how dignity doesn't require diamonds. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. She said. When the article came out, it was an instant hit. The title read, "Elegance Isn't Loud." The story of Emily Blackwood. Readers were touched by her calm confidence. Young women quoted her online. Businesses referenced her story in employee training. "Treat every customer like they're Emily," one HR manager told his team. Emily was invited to speak at a global women's summit. She hesitated at first. Public speaking wasn't her strength, but Lucas encouraged her. "Your story is already out there. Let them hear your voice too." And so she stepped onto a grand stage, heart pounding, greeted by thunderous applause. Her speech was simple. No theatrics, just truth. "I was judged for being ordinary," she said. "But kindness isn't extraordinary, it's expected. Let's make that the standard." When she stepped off stage, tears filled more than one set of eyes. Her message landed not with fury, but with grace. Inspired by her experience, Emily launched a quiet initiative called Every Voice Matters, a program to train service workers on dignity, empathy, and hidden bias. "We won't change the world overnight," she said. "But we can soften it one interaction at a time." One night, under the stars on their private terrace, Lucas looked at her with admiration. "You never raised your voice," he said, "but you moved the world." Emily smiled. Sometimes the strongest thing a woman can do is to stay kind when the world expects her to break. Time moved on. The story that once shook the internet slowly faded from trending lists, replaced by newer headlines. But its impact didn't vanish. Inside the dealership, a framed quote now hung above the customer service desk: "Kindness doesn't cost anything, but the lack of it might." Emily Blackwood. Every Voice Matters grew quietly but powerfully. It became a standard module in corporate onboarding, across dozens of luxury brands. Employees from New York to Singapore learned not just how to sell but how to listen, how to respect. "We don't want another Emily moment to happen here," they'd say, not with sarcasm, but with sincerity. One day, a young woman named Ava, who had grown up reading about Emily's story, joined Lucas's company as a junior executive. In her interview, she said, "I'm here because of your wife. Her story taught me that being underestimated is a gift because it means you'll always surprise them." Lucas smiled. "Then you already understand the most important thing." On the 5th anniversary of the event, Emily released a small, elegantly written book, titled Grace Over Gold. It wasn't a bestseller by force, it became one by resonance. Not just about the car dealership, but about moments where we choose dignity over ego. In one chapter, she wrote, "Real strength never rushes to prove itself. It simply stands still and lets the world adjust." One morning, a package arrived. It was from the same salesman now, a small business owner himself. Inside was a letter. "Your grace changed my life. I treat every customer like they're royalty now. I owe you more than an apology. I owe you the man I became." Along with it, a small ceramic plaque that read, "Thank you for not shouting. Thank you for standing." In her final public interview, an aged but radiant Emily was asked, "Would you change anything?" She thought for a moment. "Only one thing," she smiled. I would have walked into that dealership even taller." Then she laughed softly. "But I think life taught me how to do that afterward." Emily passed peacefully years later, surrounded by love. She had never chased fame, but her story lived on in quiet places and training rooms, on office walls, in customer service scripts, not as a tale of revenge or wealth, but as a reminder that a simple woman with dignity can change the world without ever raising her voice.